In this demonstration exercise, I'm going to show you how to calculate regular earnings, overtime earnings, and gross pay. So let's go ahead and get started. So during 1 week, 4 production employees of Martinez Manufacturing Company worked the hours shown below. All these employees receive overtime pay at 1.5 times their regular hour rate for any hours worked beyond 40 hours in a week. Determine the regular earnings, overtime earnings, and gross earnings for each employee. And we're going to round our intermediate calculations and our final answers to 2 decimal places. It's crucial that we do that if it gives you those directions, due to the fact that if you're working on this in the Connect software, if you don't follow the directions as how it's stated, it will most likely be wrong due to rounding errors. Okay? All right, so let's get started. So we've got 4 different employees, and each hourly rate for each employee is listed, and then their hours worked. Let's go ahead and calculate the overtime rate first, and then the overtime hours, the regular earnings, the overtime earnings, and then the gross earnings. So to calculate the overtime rate, remember that we're going to take the regular rate, okay, multiply by 1.5 or time and a half. Because as we all know, when we work a full 40-hour week, and let's say, you work in a factory or something, you get time and a half, which is 1.5 times the rate of what you get paid. So if you are working over 40 hours in a week and you're getting overtime pay, anything above that 40 hours is going to be paid at $16.50, which is 1.5 times your regular rate. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this formula down. I can do that because if you see up here, I've got C7 times 1.5. In Excel, if I enter that formula and I say copy that down, it's going to take C7 times 1.5 for this one. It's going to take C8 times 1.5 for this one, and so on. Now you don't have to do that. You can manually enter that in if you want to. I'm just showing you how to do that here so that it's a little faster. Okay, so we've got the overtime rate for employee 1 through 4. And let's go ahead and look at the OT hours worked, or overtime hours worked. Now remember, anything beyond 40 in a week is considered overtime. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter in another formula, simply just taking 46 hours minus 40. Okay, that tells me that whatever hours they worked minus 40 is going to give me the overtime hours. In this case, it's going to give me 6 hours. It's easily determined. If you look at 40 hours and then 46, we all know that it's 40. We all know that's 6 hours of overtime. 46 minus 40. I'm going to do that and copy all the way down. However, for employee number 3, it's not going to work. It's going to be 0. We know that because the hours worked is only 38. There's nothing beyond 40. So employee number 3 does not have overtime hours or OT hours. Okay. Regular earnings. All right, so we're going to separate the regular earnings from the overtime earnings. Okay, so let's go ahead and first calculate the regular earnings. Regular earnings is going to be based on regular hourly rate times the 40 hours. Okay. So that's going to be $440. For employee number 2, $10.62 times 40 hours. Okay. And for employee number 3, it's going to be a little different because they only work 38 hours. So I'm going to take $10.46 times 38 hours. Their regular earnings is $397.48. Employee number 4, I'm going to take the $10.80 times 40 hours. Okay. I know to do 40 hours for number 1, 2, and 4 because I know they worked over 40 hours for each. Now go ahead and let's take the overtime hours. Okay, so remember, overtime hours is your time and a half rate, which is the $16.50 for employee number 1, times however many hours they worked during that week, which is the 6 hours of overtime, which we calculated previously. Okay, so once again, I'm going to take $15.93 for employee number 2 times the total of OT hours that they worked for 111.51. There is no overtime hours for employee number 3 because we already determined that. So that overtime earnings is 0. And then for employee number 4, I'm going to take $16.20, which is this amount right here, times the 8 hours here, which is $129.69. Finally, we can go ahead and calculate gross pay or gross earnings. Gross earnings is going to be your regular earnings plus your any overtime earnings, okay? So if I add $440 to $99, I get $539. I'm going to go ahead and copy that formula down, and it's going to give me the total gross earnings for each employee. Okay, so employee number 2, they earned a gross earnings of $536.31. Employee number 3, $397.48. And employee number 10 for a total of $561.60.